Okay, so we did adding, subtracting, we did multiplying. Now we're going to talk about dividing. Well, we don't really divide them. I mean, we're going to get the division taken care of, and we're going to have our answer in a plus bi form. But here's how we do it. It's similar to, remember when we had something like 5 over 1 minus the square root of 3 or something like that, and we had to multiply by the conjugate because we said, oh, you can't have a square root in the denominator. It's very similar to that process, okay? So we're going to use conjugates again. So we might have something like 7, maybe even 7 plus 2i over negative 1 plus 3i, okay? So that looks like a complex number divided by another complex number, right? But what we're actually going to do is, we're going to multiply here. And we have to multiply in both the numerator and the denominator, just like in the past. We're going to multiply by the conjugate of the denominator. So the conjugate of negative 1 plus 3i is negative 1 minus 3i. Okay? So in this video, I wanted to talk a little bit about complex conjugates. So if you have 4 plus 2i, the conjugate is 4 minus 2i. If you have negative 3 minus 7i, the conjugate is negative 3 plus 7i. If you have negative 2 plus I, the conjugate is negative 2 minus I. Now let's get into a couple that might be a little more unusual. What would be the conjugate of negative 3i? It would be positive 3i. Think of it as 0 minus 3i and 0 plus 3i, okay? Now, you might be saying, what would be the conjugate of 5? Well, that's just a real number, so we don't have to worry about that. Okay, now, you probably want me to do this problem over here. I have another example in the next video, but I'll go ahead and do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply. In the numerator, I'm going to go 7 times negative 1, 7 times negative 3i, 2i times negative 1, and 2i times negative 3i, which is going to be negative 6i squared. I'll take care of that in a minute. And then in the denominator, I'm going to have negative 1 times negative 1, which is 1. Now I'm going to go ahead and FOIL this, but in the future we don't have to do that. Negative 1 times negative 3i is going to be positive 3i. But then negative 3i times negative 1 is going to be negative 3i. See, those are going to cancel out. That's the beauty of the conjugates. Okay, now you have to be careful on this last part. On this last part, you have 3i times negative 3i. That's going to be negative 9i squared. Okay, now we're going to have to simplify. In the numerator, I have negative 7 minus 23i, and it's going to be, this is going to be negative 1, right? So plus 6 over, and then in the denominator, I'm going to have 1. These are going to cancel out, and then this is going to be negative 1, I squared, so it's going to be plus 9. Okay? All right, now that is not in a plus bi form, but let me keep going. The negative 7 and the 6, that's negative 1 minus 23i. 1 plus 9 is 10. Okay, that still isn't in a plus bi form, but here's how we change it. Negative 1 over 10 minus 23 over 10i. Now, those are fractions. Those are real numbers. That's okay. A is negative 1/10, real number, no problem. B is negative 23 over 10, real number, no problem. This is in a plus bi form. This is good to go. I just made that problem up, so. Now, you might have a question about the fractions. If they simplify, you simplify them. This time they don't, so we're done.